now then. So as you can see, new patch notes finally. I've made it perfectly clear that I'm not been enjoying this patch too much, which typically I tend to. Even when people aren't too happy, I tend to, but no, this patch wasn't for me. And I had a quick scan over them. Some really good stuff in here, so I'll give a quick overview on it. Some of the bigger ones and more like impactful ones I'll talk about a bit more. Some are just, you know, one card's had a provision drop, it's still not playable, that kind of thing. We'll just skim over those, but we'll get to the juicy bits. So we have the outside of game stuff. Pretty nice. They got if you got the battle on Uruga Bridge stuff. There's going to be more ornaments and all those kind of things. And like Gascon things, not of too much interest to me because I don't own either. Um, Now neutral changes. Araka's Venom being two provisions less. Sorry, actually really good. Borderline. I still think it's not that great, but this is definitely better. 100% better. So you might not have seen this card because, let's face it, probably haven't used it all that much. It's deal 3 poison, the ones next to it, on Deathblow, and it's reasonable, especially at 5p. Off and onion soup, 6 to 5, still bad. Shoot stay off, provision change, really, really nice. The Redea's also had a drop, so singletons have basically got a buff of like 2 provisions, which I think will really help, but I still don't think it's quite enough. It's just kind of been power crept as an archetype. I think it needs some new cards that also benefit from like the singleton kind of build of using like one-of cards for them to see a bit more play, but which I hope to see because I really like playing singleton decks. Vigo's muzzle change, still really bad. Dragon's Dream change, still really bad. And exactly the same for Triss Butterflies. Borderline, maybe play this in a Glace, but I mean, a Glace isn't that great, so it's what it is. So Synthesis Blaze, again, still kind of bad. Ragnarok changed to 9p is close. It's close to being good. It already plays ambitiously as like a 12 for 10. So 12 for 9 is bordering on being good. I'll probably give this a try out. I think, in something like a dagger deck or something, this will be really, really good. Really, really good. Garrison, still kind of garbage. Primordial Dow, still really bad. Zoltan Scoundrel, really nice change for the drop in provisions, but I think it's still kind of overpriced. It's too ambitious of a card. Colossal has had a power change, still not good enough. Gonra Dim's power change. Gonra Dim's problem is that it's only good if it kills the unit, so you need the order, which means you either run a Petrie's filter, which is bad. And if you don't get to complete it, then the unit just has Doomed, and Doomed doesn't do a whole lot on anything but like Madoc and Blind Redanium. Like there's a handful of cards where it's actually relevant, so not that good. You compare this to something like Morale, for example. If Morale gets removed, at least you have one poison left over to show for it. Uh, Vivienne Auriel ability is no longer limited to units. That's pretty good. This is actually really relevant. So kind of reason for this. If you don't know about what this does, it boosts itself by the provisions of the card next to it. And the sort of relevance of this is like it can hit scenarios now. So I think because it doesn't synergize with anything, it's just straight point and slam, which would work in decks that don't want point slam. So like Ball, for example, doesn't care too much about point slam. And we kind of saw that with like Joachim not being like a center thing. It's not amazing, but I like that change. I really like that change. Manticore Venom's change is really good. Like this is arguably something you want to be putting in unit list now. So this is destroy the unit with the highest base power. Um, Obviously, you don't want to hit your own synthesis, but pretty good. Charlie Grass's change, absolutely insane. Really good. So this is a damage unit by 6, set its power to 12. If it's a Witcher, doesn't damage itself by 6. This is just kind of good in like a Witcher SK kind of deck, isn't it? Obviously, you're not going to run this in most decks, but yeah, that's good. That's really good. You play an armor up and have a damaged Witcher student at like 1 power. Trial of the Grasses is literally playing as an 11-point card. Really, really good. And there's, even if you don't get that like best case, you don't miss any targets on it. And also, of course, there's Arnagad. 12-point Arnagad. Sounds kind of juicy. Caldwell change. Caldwell's garbage unless you're playing Bamboozle decks, which are also kind of bad. They just rely on your opponent being bad. Tempest provision change is still bad. It's still really bad. Ockfist, still really bad. And I spoke about Redea. Now monsters, this is what I've been waiting for, and I saw this and my heart absolutely soared. So Ruin change, just run Succubus instead of Ruin, bad. Desert Banshee change helps a lot for like Death Wish decks. You're definitely running like 2 ofs in Death Wish decks, but Death Wish doesn't see that much play, so it is what it is. But I like that change. It was overpriced at 5. Kranthier can now only copy monster units with provision cost 10 or less. But then I hear you saying, but Inari, Bloody Mistress, and Mamuna are 10 provisions. They can still get targeted. No, not anymore. Not anymore, because now Bloody Mistress is 11. Now Mamuna's 11. It's beautiful. I could have cried when I saw this, honestly. I'm so happy. I've been saying for so long Kranthier is busted, and it limits what monsters can do in terms of future cards because they have to build around the fact that Kranthier can make a copy. That I'm over the moon at this. Absolutely over the moon at this. This will hit Relicts like an absolute train because Kranthier into Mamuna is just absolutely nuts. And Kranthier into Bloody Mistress, absolutely nuts. Neither of those are possible anymore. I mean, Kranthier is still good. There's still plenty of potential here. Apologies if I'm stupid, but this still hits Koshi. I think Koshi's still 10. Still hits Kikimo Queen. Bring back Kikimo Queen, I guess. But yeah, I'm just over the moon at this one. Now Kikimo Queen has had provisions changed. I think this was kind of killed by Death's Shadow being removed as a leader ability. Unfortunately, because this takes so long to set up, it's gonna struggle, which is pretty sad, but you know, is what it is. Kikimo's just been replaced by Koshi, more or less, hasn't it? Plague Maiden's provision change. I think Plague Maiden's problem is its Death Wish is kind of bad. Not necessarily a provision thing, but again, it's, you know, maybe a token deck, maybe you run this. I don't think it's that great though. Werewolves' power's been increased. If this was a Skytel card, this would just be like an instant auto include in unit list, but it's a monsters card, so I mean I guess the like 3 people on ladder who are playing unitless monsters are pretty happy, but everyone else it kind of won't affect them. Imlerith has had its provisions changed. It's still bad. Still bad. Mamoon has been increased. Very happy. Selfie has had its power change from 6 to 5, which is something I was saying. I was literally calling for this exact change, so I'm happy that somewhere that thought got projected into the mind of a dev. Because this is incredibly relevant because of the way the splitting the power works. It rounds down. Now, this means if you split your Self Eater before you play your Relics, you know, so you have 2 on the board, 10 after you play it, then they end up being 2 3s. So it becomes a 6. If you don't split it, it becomes a 6 itself. Whereas before, if you split that 6 down, it becomes 2 3s that go up to 4. So it's such a huge difference this 1 power makes because of the way the Self Eater works. It in effect slows down Self Eater by 1 turn, which is really good. and it's also in range of a lot of the really common 5 damage removals, so boiling oils and rebukes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, perfect change, and I'm not at all biased because it's definitely not what I've been saying for a long time. And Kikimo Worker's armor change feels a little unnecessary. I think it was kind of fine at 4 armor, but I mean 3, it's a nerf to Relicts. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain. Ulrich and Brockvar getting Warrior, finally. Don't think it matters too much there. Blacksmith has gone down to 4. I could be wrong, but I remember they nerfed this 2-5, didn't they? I could be misremembering, but I swear they nerfed it 2-5 and put it back. But anyway, now this is decent. This is like, I guess if Warriors were on ladder, you would maybe run this instead of like Brockvar Hunters, possibly. Maybe. Seems kind of good at 4, to be honest. Spear Maiden's power changed from 5 to 6, still a bad card. Harold and Crit now damages self by 2 instead of the Revived Bronze Warrior. Yeah, fair, but I mean, you shouldn't be playing your Harold in round 1 anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. Crow Preacher being changed to 4. I think if this had come before the expansion, anyone playing Druids would be very happy, but I think now there's just so many other Druids that you would rather play. That just kind of means you don't need this. There's just better Druids to run. You know, why run Crow Clan Preachers when you can just run Hermits and Singers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think unfortunately too little too late when it comes to the Preacher. Scold ability is now locked to the Rangerer. Can now play Scold in melee rare if they are worried that otherwise they'll be forced to discard a good card. I think that's fair. This actually makes me really sad though, because what you could do before with Melusine was play the Scold on the melee row to like the left of Melusine, and then the discarded card like a Tersiche would come out on the right, so you could instantly set it up. Very minor thing. I think that's fair though, giving you the ability to not use the discard. Spamridge, provision cost change. I think he's like borderline playable now since he combos so nicely with what's his name? Arnoff combos really well with Patch Shadow Fury. Just change buff to Blaze of Glory, which I think is fair. I never thought I'd see the day that I was happy to see an SK Warriors buff, like some quite big buffs. But this is the world we're living in, I guess. Now, NR changes. Another one I was very happy about was Cohen. This is super relevant because now when he's pulled by AA, he's boosted to A6 instead of A5. So you straight away set up at a much higher boost count. And in something like Shield Wall, your Anna is going to get set to 6. It's just all round good. It's just all round good. So yeah, happy to see that one. Odrin's provision change, like maybe I tried him out and he wasn't terrible in like a warfare focused siege list. Not amazing, but I mean at 6 he's kind of tempting. Like you could get greedier and just play this instead of a Marguerite, for example. So I don't mind this at all, to be fair. Pulling with AA, it's gonna get inspired. Kind of good, kind of good. Draug has been changed to yep. Yeah, I think that's fair. Basically, what it's doing is instead of having to put Draug on the row to transform it, you kind of choose the row, so it gives you 1 extra space for Revenants. And in theory, you would never want to, but I mean, you could choose not to use it straight away. Kind of good. Mad Kian, still bad. The card's still bad. Instead of killing himself, like it's a massive buff to the card, but it's still really bad. Knighthood. I mean, nah, I'm probably being harsh on Mad Kian, to be fair. It's not terrible, but I just think there's better options for NR at that provision point. I think that's fairer. Knighthood, still a bad card. Botchling, borderline playable. I think it's still a little bit bad. I mean, we kind of saw that like Dunny for NR, for NG, sorry, which is functionally doing the same thing. But he's also, mm, well, at the time was cheaper, and was still like not worth playing. I don't think Botchling sees any play. Revenant change. I'm so happy about this. Revenants have needed this change for a long time. They deserve to be 4 provisions. Unfortunately, a bit of Magic's still 5, but it is what it is. One day. And to say getting the drop in provisions is fair because the card's kind of garbage. We'll see if 2 provision change is enough, but I think it's 2. It's this win more kind of card that is just kind of bad. Panther, bad card. Ranger, damage from the deploy, change from 1 to 2. Card's just been power crept, unfortunately. Ithliner, similar to what I said about Triss Butterflies, is only good in a Glace, and a Glace doesn't see play. Tersa, provision cost drop. Harmony doesn't see play, so that's not going to see anything. Weird that none of the spells for Scoia'tael have been touched like in any way, shape, or form. Maybe that's patch afterwards. Maybe they needed some more time on it, but I don't think it needs tweaking too much. But I think it needs tweaking a little bit. Nilfgaard hasn't seen that much. Vivienne, similar to what I was saying about. I always forget the name of it. Where have you gone? Vivienne Oriel. That's why I was getting confused. It's the same card. Vivienne, sorry, it's the same thing I was saying about other Vivienne. Well, same Vivienne. You know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about. Still kind of bad. Menagerie Keeper, borderline, but still, there's other options, other better options. Nilfgaard's quite tight at the bottom end of bronzes because they have so many good options that I don't think that makes the cut. Syndicate Domination, good improvement, still not great. Tin Boy change is nice. Sabella's Frightener's power's been increased, that's nice, but it's been power crept. Sausage Maker, our boy has finally seen a buff. Still bad though. Slammers had an upgrade, but still not gonna see play. Good old Puga Bum Bum had a bit of a power increase. Weird it's in Syndicate when this is basically a monsters card. It's reasonable. It's reasonable. Unfortunately, gonna make a habit of it, but been power crept. It's been power crept, unfortunately. Penitent into Pugo is nowhere near as good as just playing Relics, but it's a nice change to see nonetheless. And Mutant Killer's change, which is the horde damaging, all that fun stuff. Power change. I think this just works see play because like horde decks just want to go for that greedy engine kind of thing. And it just is not very synergistic basically. It doesn't offer too much. And in terms of game fixes, we're just looking at, I won't bore you with all this, it's just minor fixes and stuff. That's quite the one, isn't it? Isengrim's Council will no longer terminate the match in a draw if there are no valid cards in the deck to choose from. Yeah, some nice fixes. But yeah, you can pause the video if you want to read those. I'll also put a link to it so you can read it yourself in the description. So I've been talking for nearly 20 minutes straight. I need a drink. This has brought me out of my like Gwent coma. Relicts put me into it, but this patch looks like it's probably saved me. So I'll be back firing in a couple of days when we finally have the new patch. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.